to be totally forthright with the authorities. I went in, filled out a public assembly permit that's sitting in the mayor's office, and again, we expect to hold a meeting with the mayor, mayor's staff, mayor's office, hopefully the mayor, and the chief of police sometime this week or next, just to get on the same page. Okay. All right. Also, I just want to announce I've been notified that Dan Meuser will be coming to Lebanon on May 29th. The Chamber of Commerce has invited him. Now, we are not members of the Chamber of Commerce, but I must have received probably 10 emails from people who are, letting me know that he will be here, but the exact time and venue has not been announced, and it will not be publicly announced. So, but we're going to find out. But I also have respect for the Chamber of Commerce, right? We don't want to tick off the people in the Chamber of Commerce and disrupt their meeting with Dan Meuser. On the other hand, we want to express ourselves. So, I'm throwing it open here for your ideas about how we deal with Dan Meuser coming on Thursday, May 29th. We don't know what time, we don't know where, somewhere here in Lebanon County. How should we address that? It's not a public meeting. You need to register and you need to pay. It's like $35 a head. And we could be outside. Well, and that's reasonable, right? This is the Chamber of Commerce. They get to hold their events. They have every right to hold their events as they see fit. But our question for us is, how do we respond as Mondays with Meuser, as our group, which is insisting that Dan Meuser does his job and meet with us? What should be our response? Should we hold a public protest outside the venue where this is being held? Is there broad consensus if that's the case? Any disagreement on that? That's a very good idea, Tom. Well, okay, so that's the Tom. We don't. One of the problems with that is we don't know what time the meeting is going to be. Okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. So we could actually rent or secure or reserve a venue for that date and extend an invitation to Dan Meuser to come and speak and hold a public meeting. Okay, thank you, then. Yes. Okay, very good. So we will find out where it is. I don't have much, I don't have much doubt about that. The question is what we do about it, and whether we respect the right of the Chamber of Commerce to hold a peaceable, it'll be peaceable regardless. But whether we go and express our concerns. And it sounds to me like the consensus here is that this is a good opportunity for us to go and express our concerns at that venue, whatever it happens to be. Yes, Bev. Beverly, thank you. Beverly is suggesting more letters. I think that's a great idea. The more letters, the better, right? Every week we should be bringing letters. But yes, if you want to bring your letters maybe next week on what your particular concerns are and the questions you have and the concerns you want to express to Dan Meuser, we can collect those and deliver those on May 29th. Margaret. Will they become public record? If you want them, if you don't want them to be public record, you should probably say so. The question is, are the letters that we submit officially recorded, and are they part of the public record? And the short answer is no, right? Unless we make them public, which I actually did. I scanned quite a few of them and received them electronically and posted them on Facebook. So now those are public. But when people write letters to their representative, they're not made public, right? They just go into a box. into a file cabinet or something. They're what? They are official. I think they are legally obliged to retain them, and not just throw them away. But they're not necessarily made public. But we can make them public unless you don't want your letter made public. And we had several people say, please take my address off. I don't want to be doxxed, right? I don't want people showing up at my home, which is totally reasonable. Like, put it on Facebook, take out the exact street address. Make yourself a target. But in any case, any other responses to that? All right, so we will be in touch about the date and about the time and the venue for this event on May 29th. It's a Thursday. I suspect it'll be late morning, early afternoon. That's when they usually hold these kinds of events. So we will just keep our eye on that ball and deal with that as we move forward. And why are we here today? We're here to insist that Representative Dan Meuser do your job. Do your job. Dan, do your job. And part of your job is to meet with your constituents, and part of your job is also to uphold your oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, not just foreign enemies, but domestic enemies. And Lord knows we have quite a number of domestic enemies of the U.S. Constitution in this administration who are breaking that, violating the Constitution just about every single day. And that's why we're here. Thank you. So the focus for today is corruption. We know that this regime has acted illegally. We know it has acted unconstitutionally. We also know that it has acted corruptly. And there are myriad examples of the deep corruption of this administration. Let me just give a couple of examples, then I'm going to give the microphone over to you. And you can come up and express your sentiments about how you feel about the corruption that is endemic in Washington, D.C. Example number one. Yesterday, news outlets began reporting that Qatari government is poised to give Donald Trump a $400 million luxury Boeing 747. What do you think about that? Ooh, that is outrageous. It's an absolute violation of the law. And they're skirting the law, they're ignoring the law. So a $400 million airplane as a gift with no expected payback, give me a break. Okay, that's example number one. Example number two, and then I'll turn it over to you, are these meme coins. There are federal laws against a foreign interest paying money to campaigns here in the United States. This is a way to totally get around that law through this cryptocurrency, these meme coins. Foreigners overseas are literally shoveling money into Donald Trump's pockets as we speak. He's making millions, maybe even billions of dollars personally. His family, his sons are benefiting. His family is benefiting. Lord knows how many other close confidants and cronies and acolytes are benefiting. So this is an effort to just completely ignore federal laws. It is so profoundly corrupt. It is corruption on an industrial scale. I mean, I've taught American history. We teach in the 1920s there was a Teapot Dome. Remember? Maybe you remember from way back in the day. Teapot Dome, the scandal of oil companies and Andrew Mellon and getting, people in the federal government lining their pockets with oil money. This is on a scale that is orders of magnitude greater. We're talking billions of dollars. And so the scale of the corruption is just totally off the charts. So now what I'd like to do is ask you to come on up and say a few words. Thank you. Say a few words. So great to see so many of you out here, by the way. You know, we're going to keep holding these Mondays for Meuser. As long as you all keep coming, we're going to keep holding them. Okay? And how many people we got here today? I'd say 70 or 80 people. And maybe more. We'll see. All right. So who would like to come up and say a few words about corruption, if that's what you choose to talk about, or what you would ask Dan Meuser if he were here to tell him to do his job? Who'd like to say a few words? Don't be shy, folks.
I'll talk, Mike. You know I'll talk.
You know I'm talking all the time, so sorry. My name is Phil. I live right up the street here. Brought my wife with today. We just got married a week ago. Actually, I would like to address all you beautiful people out here. I have been reading on Facebook and social media that people are saying, you're wasting your time. You're not going to change anything. You know what? They are wrong. They are dead wrong. George Floyd received justice thanks to protest. Women, people of color, got the right to vote thanks to protest. We ended the Vietnam War because of protest. The past couple months, there's been millions of people taken to the street in this great country, standing up to the oligarchy of Donald Trump. And I am proud to be part of that, and you all should be proud as well. You people are beautiful. I love you. Keep coming out. Bring friends. Spread the word. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. I'd like to bring up an old chant. You guys know I like to chant. So I'm going to say, whose streets, and you say our streets, okay? Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
You're beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil. You think Phil's being paid by George Soros today? I don't think so. Phil Eversole is a lifelong resident here in Lebanon County, born and raised. Right? How many of you are being paid by George Soros? Let's see those hands. I don't see very many hands. We're here because we are outraged, we are incensed, we are anxious, we're scared, we're pissed off, and we are insisting that our representative does his job. Who else would like to come up and say a few words?
First of all, I'd like to ask Dan Meuser, why is he so afraid of us? Who are we? People that live in Lebanon County. None of us look dangerous, and I think that none of us are. We're here peacefully. We've been here for 10 weeks peacefully. We haven't done anything to anybody or anything. We're just here. And this is for an important thing. You know, I've said this so many times before. But now I've heard that Trump says he can even arrest American citizens if they've come against his regime. And he wants to build camps for people in foreign countries, Syria and different countries. So I guess he can come to my house because he has seen me here protesting. I'm a registered Democrat because of him. And
We're going to be long gone.
so he can carry me away somewhere and lock me up.
I know.
And that's what he likes to do, lock people up. So this is so important. Bring friends, bring as many people as you can. This has got to grow. We are not wasting our time.
That's why
This is how things change.
Thank you very much. We are not wasting our time. You know, that's what we get. You know, you put this on a antagonistic Facebook page or on social media, you get all kinds of negative comments. All right, here we have another speaker.
I'm Judy Zimmerman. I live in Cornwall. I'm curious to know what it costs us taxpayers to have that $400 million luxury jet converted so that they're slashing millions of dollars for programs for the needy, but they spend millions and millions, if not billions, to convert that jet. So wrong.
It's very wrong. You know, to me, the definition of corruption is holding public office and enriching yourself by virtue of that public office. That's what corruption is. Right? You Say that again, Beth? It's against the law, and it's morally wrong, and ethically wrong. That's why they have ethics committees and ethics rules, and why they have inspectors general. Well, who has just fired a whole bunch of IG? A whole bunch of inspector generals have been fired. 17. And I think we have someone here ready to speak to talk about those inspectors general.
My name is Duncan McLean. I live here in South Lebanon, and I'm somebody who grew up that side. Cuba and Argentina, and they were, of course, rife with corruption. Just looking at just about turning into Cuba and Argentina. And my poster child for corruption is insider trading. And obviously, President Trump manipulates the stock market, gives messages to himself and his family and enemies. Republican capitalism. This is capitalism. This is pro-capitalism.
Thank you, Duncan. Yeah, that's a welcome reminder. This is like mafia capitalism. It's crony capitalism. It's do you know the dawn? If you know the dawn, you can deal. You can make a deal. Well, the United States of America is not a mafia. Even though that's what they want to turn it into. Who else would like to say a word?
Pat Steele. What are you going to do about the rampant corruption in our federal government? Question. So Trump has consistently put the interests of billionaires and corporations over working people. This is most evident by the Trump administration already halting or dismissing nearly 90 investigations against law-breaking corporations, according to a recent report by Public Citizen. One of the biggest beneficiaries of this corruption is tech billionaire Elon Musk. Before Inauguration Day, federal agencies had at least 32 open investigations into Musk's companies. Since then, as you know, Trump has appointed Musk as a special government employee to lead the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which has slashed government programs and jobs and targeted many agencies that are investigating Musk companies. Musk's actions in this role have led to the end of most, if not all, of these investigations. These investigations will not only put Musk's bottom line, but also make U.S. workers less safe. Musk has benefited from the Trump administration halting investigations into Tesla, Neuralink, and SpaceX. If this isn't corrupt, then what is it? Ask you that. The Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, OFCCP, began auditing Tesla in 2024 to ensure adherence to equal employment laws for federal contractors. Tesla has been widely cited as creating a hostile work environment with rampant racial bias and instances of sexual harassment. The OFCCP can levy fines of millions of dollars if they find wrongdoing, and even ban contractors from future projects. An important enforcement mechanism because federal taxpayer dollars shouldn't be going to companies that break the law and exploit their workers. However, as you might know, Trump signed an executive order effectively eliminating the OFCCP during his first week in office. Effectively halting their investigation into Tesla and ensuring that U.S. workers will be subject to unlawful treatment. In 2022, the Inspector General of the U.S. Department including the USDA. Although the content of the investigation was unclear, it was most likely due to blotch experiments that led to the deaths of multiple mammals, including monkeys. Numerous employees have complained that Musk has pressured the company into moving too quickly, not only leading to the unnecessary deaths of the animals, but also compromising research. One of the first agencies that the Trump administration attempted to dismantle in the U.S. was the U.S. Agency for International Development, that's USAID. While it was first unclear why Musk and Doge had their sights set on eliminating an agency focused on foreign aid, recent reports have shed light on Musk's connection with USAID. In May 2024, the USAID Inspector General announced it was investigating USAID's relationship with Starlink, which is a subsidy of SpaceX, which it had paid to provide internet services to Ukraine citizens. While the details of the investigation are not public, there is evidence that Russia had access to Starlink, which was not supposed to be possible. However, the investigation will likely be dropped as the Trump administration moves forward to initiate. I could go on and on. Should I or should I stop? You heard enough. But these are just a few of the many examples of how the Trump administration has sided with billionaires at the expense of working people. Musk stands to gain significantly from Trump shutting down investigations into his various businesses. It seems very clear that new investigations will not be opened into Musk's activities. This means that if workers in his factories are discriminated against, if his rockets continue to pollute the environment, or if he continues to violate election law, he will not face any consequences. Further, as head of Doge, Musk has unfettered access to American-sensitive and personal data, potentially giving him an advantage to future federal government contracts. So, Dan, what are you going to do about this awful corruption? Yes. Dan! Your job! Dan! Do your job! Dan! Do your job! Dan, thank you. The source for, I just wanted to set the source, was from Economic Policy Institute, Corruption in Plain Sight, how Elon Musk has benefited from the first 100 days of the Trump administration.
Thank you, Pat. Yes, this is industrial scale corruption. And we don't even know the third of it. We don't even know the 10th of it going on behind closed doors. Once this administration is out of there and we're in a post-Trump world, we're going to really begin to dig in and see the extraordinary depth and extent and breadth of the corruption that is washing across Washington, D.C. as we speak.
You're saying, do your job, Dan. One of Dan's jobs is he's the chairman of a subcommittee, I think it's on oversight, in the House Committee on Financial Services. So all of this stuff comes right under his purview. So he needs to do your job, Dan. Do your job, Dan. Do your job, Dan.
Under normal circumstances, this Congress would be hip deep, neck deep in investigation. There would be hearings. There would be witnesses. There would be investigation. What do we see now? We hear crickets. We got nothing. Why? Because they are laying down and playing dead and letting Donald Trump and his illegal, unconstitutional actions walk all over them. So we're here to insist that Dan Meuser do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
But her emails. All right, guys. Here's the shirt, okay? They won 1939 Germany. Let's give them 1789 France. All right? You may not know that I used to be a French teacher, and when I taught French to the kids, I also taught the French history because it's important to
different period in time for two big reasons. One, they walked their talk. They were no longer Mr., Mrs., or Miss. They were citizen. Citizen Michael, right? Citoyen, citoyenne. They redid the calendar. It was no longer a calendar of 12 months. It was 10 months according to the seasons. And they, not according to Roman gods or Roman emperors like the calendar is now. So they walked their talk. And this is all born out of the age of enlightenment. You have to realize, back in the late 18th century, they still had the idea that once you were born into a certain caste in life, you were there for the rest of it. If you were born poor, you'd die poor. If you were born rich, you would die rich, etc. And it was due to the writers and the thinkers of the Age of Enlightenment that led to, first of all, our Declaration of Independence and our war for independence against tyranny. Yes, exactly. And we inspired the French Revolution in 1789 for them to take over of the monarchy. And this was people had something to lose. These were not actually it did not come from the people, the peasants, the poor people. It came from like the middle class, what they call the bourgeois. It came from them who had skin in the game. They would stand to lose many things because of their privilege in life. And we have a lot to lose right now. And we have skin in the game, and we need to make sure that we keep this in mind and that we are standing on the shoulders. Somebody said this last week. We're standing on the shoulders of giants from 2 centuries ago. We're coming up on our 250th anniversary. I can't believe this guy's in power during our 250th. So, and yes, exactly. Which leads me to an announcement I wanted to make. So, June 14th happens to be a Saturday. And is doing a nationwide protest of No King's Day. And so, I propose for June or our Saturday to be moved to the 14th. And then we'll do a No King's Day. All right? Here in Lebanon County. So, and I just leave you with this. Right now, the issue with this is how much propaganda, how much infiltrating into news, and not just one person. OAN is OAN, one American, one American network or something, whatever. OAN, it's a right wing news media. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to be in charge of Voice of America, people. Voice of America was started to go into be broadcasting to countries that were oppressed, that had tyranny, that had authoritarian governments, and we're going to be broadcasting our propaganda, our right-wing propaganda into those countries. This is where the war is starting with this disinformation industrial complex, and we need to be vigilant and make sure that we don't get any further than we have. And Dan, what are you going to do about the disinformation industrial complex, which leads to the corruption? So what? Do your job! Do your job! Do your job!
Thank you very much, Laura. Yes, next year we will be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Every county in Pennsylvania has a 250th committee. We have one right here in Lebanon County. I happen to sit on that committee wearing a couple hats. And you are invited to join that committee as well. It's a full year away, more than a year, right? So there's still lots of opportunity to have your voice heard on how we commemorate the foundation of this republic. And whether we will be celebrating or whether we will be mourning is really up to us and up to people like citizens across the country. I'd like to be able to celebrate, but we may well be mourning the death of our republic. And it's up to us to see that we end up celebrating and not mourning.
what makes us human, and you all know what Elon Musk said about empathy. He said empathy is America's biggest weakness. That's from Elon Musk. Now a quick word about women's rights and reproductive rights. My son works for a firm near Philadelphia, and he said his boss had recently witnessed it. What was that about? He said his wife had an ectopic pregnancy. You women know more than I about the life-threatening condition of ectopic pregnancies. They got through it, but they'd like to have more children, and if they have another ectopic pregnancy, they are afraid they are afraid that even in Pennsylvania, they cannot find a physician who will willingly treat them with the necessary procedures because the physicians are scared and afraid of being sued and taken and have criminal charges filed against them. So they moved to London. I'd like to ask Dan Meuser, what's your position on this, on women's rights, reproductive rights, and just say, Dan, do your job.
Do your job! Do your job!
My name is Joanne. I'm from Lebanon City. The most recent outrage that I've read about is that the House Judiciary Committee has all the Republicans in the committee unanimously voted to make it legal to deport U.S. citizens. So they are moving ahead with this agenda. It's not just rumor or innuendo. They are moving forward. So I looked it up, and Meuser is not on this committee. So my question for Dan is, how will you vote when this bill comes before the entire House? And other than that, do your job, Dan. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Yes, we have already seen U.S. citizens deported to third countries. This is, how can you deport a citizen? There's no place to deport them to, right? This is so unconstitutional and so unlawful. It is absolutely, unprecedented. I think we have someone else who wants to say a few words. My friend Gary.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for a people to reassert those principles upon which those nations has been founded. Russia used to be communist, and they had this slogan, workers of the world unite. I think as an overview of what's going on, is Russia now has a new maxim that Trump has adopted, and it is oligarchs of the world unite. I think they're all in league with each other. And they have violated, as you said, with the plane, Article 1, Section 9 of our Constitution, which prohibits emoluments being issued to our politicians. They've sold out totally in our economy. Now, I noticed something very, very weird. We were told that George Soros is paying us to be here. Right? I didn't get my check. Yeah, I didn't get my check yet. So he said we don't want him to be a liar, so let's get our checks in, right? No, but something very strange I noticed with the Treasury Secretary Besson. Guess who he worked for? Guess who he's a disciple of? And guess who he made billions of dollars with? George Soros. You don't believe me? Look it up. Now that's pretty clear. And it just shows that oligarchs in the world are united against us. Tariffs we pay. Yeah, they should way up. Crazy. And now he reduced the tariffs in China. And you notice? Now the stock market. Seems like comes into the people who are working for us in government, they're getting slashed. All the money that goes up is being cut off. Meanwhile, they get the money from the top down, kind of like the divine right of kings, which is totally against democracy. And we will fight for our teachers in the schools. And we will fight for our doctors in the hospitals. And we will fight for our scientists in the research facilities. And we will fight for the old people who need Social Security and Medicare. And for those less fortunate people who need Medicare, we will fight for them. And we will never surrender our democracy to a dictator. And we will never surrender our republic to an oligarchy. And we will never kneel to a king. We will never surrender.
Thank you, Gary, for that friendly reminder that we will never kneel to a king. No king. No king. No king. No king. Beautiful. Yes.
Hey, good morning. I'm Kathy. I'm from Cornwall, and I heard something that was really troubling. They were making fun of a lot of our movement because we have a lot of senior citizens. Now, today we see a nice mix, but you know what I have to say about senior citizens? We were made for this moment. We were made for this moment. We can lead the way, and we're sure as shit gonna do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. You know, I was thinking about that. If we have 80 people and we have 86-year-olds, we have almost 5,000 years worth of experience. That's a lot of life experience right there.
Hey, I'm Erin in North Lebanon Township. I haven't been here for several many weeks because of reasons, but I am so glad to be here with y'all today. You have no idea. I represent the LGBTQ community. I am bisexual. I identify as Two-Spirit for my Native American heritage. And I just want to let you know, I'm also a mental health patient. Thank you. My anxiety almost stopped me from coming today, but I said, no! Sorry, I might swear, but I can't help myself, okay? We're all adults here, right? I just want to say that two things that I want to touch on, and it leads to corruption, but I was very, very upset on the 7th when the Real ID law came into place. You cannot travel domestically by flight.